Hello and welcome for another exciting video on StarCityGames.com. I'm Drew Levin, and this week I am playing the Twinblade deck that I wrote about earlier. I made a few changes, as I usually do, to the sideboard. There were a few too many 3-mana creatures, so I cut down on those, upped the interaction on spell-based combo decks, but the main deck is exactly the same, and so I'm excited to see how it does. So our opening hand has 2 Stoneforge Mystics, a Squadron Hawk, a Swords to Plowshares, and a Splinter Twin. 2 lands that are good enough as long as our opponent doesn't show us a wasteland for the volcanic island that we're going to get with this Arid Mesa. So we're going to lead off, I think, with basic plains so that we can play Swords to Plowshares without needing to get a white source with Arid Mesa should we want to cast Swords to Plowshares on turn 1. Has the added benefit of telegraphing, a white aggro prison deck like Death and Taxes that doesn't have an Aether Vial or a Mother of Runes, which may change our opponent's pattern of play somewhat. But really, we don't want to get a white source with this Arid Mesa, so we're just playing our plains on turn 1. So Gitaxian Probe, probably a pretty bad sign for us given that we have 4 white cards in hand. Probe generally not a good thing to see out of an opponent on game 1 when you're not holding any blue cards or counterspells. So they've got a good look at what we're up to. Decks that play Gitaxian Probe could be anything from like a Probe Therapy mid-range deck to Goblin Charbelcher to Sneak and Show to Storm to Manaless Dredge, although they wouldn't choose to play and they definitely wouldn't mulligan. Probe Go is worse news because it means that they probably don't need a land to kill us, or rather that they need exactly a land to kill us. Because you don't keep a 6-card hand with Probe unless you can kill someone on turn 1 if you probe into a land. Although maybe they need a land for like a cantrip, but I'm placing them fairly on some sort of Storm combo deck, whether it's Belcher or... Yep, Belcher it is. So they show us their deck. We go to -40. I'm not going to make them restack their deck. So they're playing Burning Wish, Empty the Warrens. No real cyclers to speak of. Multiple Manamorphoses. So, Squadron Hawk, absolutely terrible here. Wear Tear just fine. Flusterstorms and Swan Songs are fine. Clicks are fine. Aura of Silence is great. Plows are garbage. Although, actually, Plows probably necessary due to Xantid Swarm. Jit and... Jit probably fine. Batter Skull is like what we want. Actually, Jit probably not great. Probably just 2 Plows for Xantid Swarms then. And we can kill them with basically anything, but we're going to be mulliganing to a Flusterstorm or Swan Song on the play, Force of Will on the draw. And because we don't have any great one-man interaction, we're going to be hard mulliganing to Force of Will on the draw. Like, if our opponent keeps 7, we have to mulligan to Force of Will. It's a thing that you have to do, and some Belcher decks are incapable of beating a Force of Will. or some Belcher hands are incapable of beating a Force of Will. So this, I think, is fine. We have a bunch of looks at a force, and a Vendilion click if we get all the way up the curve. So we found our force. Unfortunately, we have Mystic, no white source, but we're not going to worry about that until a few turns from now. We would not like to shuffle our library. So we're going to end up forcing pitching Jace, I think. So the way that you play Force of Will against Goblin Charbelcher is you have to counter the thing that lets them empty the warrens for a real amount. If you can't beat empty the warrens. If you can, then like you have the luxury of only ever Force of Willing a Charbelcher. But absent that, you have to Force of Will like their Seething Song or something else. So they're discarding, which is fascinating. So they don't have an initial mana source, is my impression. So we're going to hold our Vendilion click until the end of their turn, or if they decide to combo off, until the middle of their turn. So we're going to cast click. We know we don't want anything from their hand, but we do want to look at it and see what we need to counter with Force of Will. So they have a bunch of 2-mana cards. They need a green source. So if I take Simian Spirit Guide, then they now need an initial mana source that perhaps we can counter. So I'm going to take that. And they're squarely on a Goblin Charbelcher plan, which is also good to know. So it was 2 walls, Paretic, Belcher, whatever. So we're more or less set from here. We're going to force our opponent's initial mana source and start fate sealing them. We're going to force pitching Brainstorm and then try and cut them off before they ever get to start playing Magic. If they naturally drew their Tega, then that's obviously bad for us, but only so much you can do. Also, Chrome Mox stops being an out right about now, because we can wear it before the imprint trigger resolves. We would like to put that card on the bottom of their library. Thank you for asking. So Lotus Petal is the exact sort of card that we don't want them to draw. Chrome Mox is fine. Spirit Guides are fine. because we can force whatever they cast with Spirit Guide. Happy to be honest with them here. They aren't exactly shuffling their deck with a whole lot. So, one of the constraints in building a Goblin Charbelcher deck is drawing initial mana sources. And absent those, you don't really get to play a whole lot of Magic. I'm happy bottoming this one just because I'd like them not to see our hand, and the 2 life that it costs them is actually potentially relevant. We're on the same turn. We're on the same clock, right? In 1, 2, 3, 4 turns, they die. But this way they don't get to see what they have to play around. Not that they really have the luxury of playing around it, but I'd rather them not see that we have Flusterstorm and Wear Tear in our deck, because those are both cards that we'd like to beat them with next game. So yeah, we'll bottom land grant. And hit for another 3. We're going to be killing with Jace this game. And our opponent has been running bad, and we've given them a bit of help. So at this point we can... I wonder if discarding Plow is correct. We would like to put that card on the bottom, yes. So if we discard Plow, it might incentivize them to take out Santid Swarm, which can only really help us. See, I'm going to discard Plow. So I'm gonna Flusterstorm this one. I'd like to save Force for something a little more concrete if our opponent somehow manages to string enough stuff together. But happy just showing them that and moving on. So not a whole lot to sideboard. We're going to need to hit Force Will in our opener next game. But I am ready to do exactly that. Come on, Force Will. That's not Force Will. It's like very far from Force Will. Well, again. Yeah, Force Will, keep. Beautiful. Tinderwall. Sack Tinderwall. Desperate Ritual. Manamorphose. So if we Force Will this one, they're at 1 mana with 3 cards left. I can imagine them having... They have to have right, something else to get out of it. Otherwise they go back up to 3 mana and 4 cards, so... Gonna Force Will this one. I don't think that they can successfully continue on, because there aren't a ton of +2s. Like, all of their stuff costs 4. So, they have to have a +1, a +2, and a thing on 4. And they don't, so we get to play some Magic. Which is good. I like playing Magic. We have the Swan Song Swords to Plowshares combo. It's online. Okay, so this is not like the greatest pressure. I don't know if you need the greatest pressure though. I definitely don't want the Mountain. Happy taking the Exarch and the Batterskull. So, given that we don't have a ton of information here, I don't think it's right to just, like, snap off a land grant. Well, I guess land grant shows us their hand. But, like, it's not really relevant here, but, like, if we had a Spell Pierce, for instance, snapping off an initial mana source wouldn't necessarily be correct. Huh. Okay. Well, we've got Burning Wish covered with Swan Song. I actually think we do want to draw this Mountain, since it's the 5th land that we need for Batterskull, and we're going to want 6. In related news, well, actually, if we want 6, then we'd like to draw some action in between rather than intentionally not drawing something. So, I think we're going to shuffle away this Mountain. And if we draw lands, then that's fine. If we draw spells, even better. Because we can, like, Jace into a land and then have Swan Song up. Tapping Tega is, like, pretty good, though. Pyroblast my Deceiver Exarch. I accept. I didn't expect to get that much value out of a Deceiver Exarch. Jeez. That thing could have countered a Swan Song. Okay, well. Time to get a Tega, I guess. Not a Tega, a Plateau, because we've got Aura of Silence in our deck. And yeah, like, if we draw lands, we draw lands, but I'm not tapping through Swan Song and then, like, losing to Burning Wish into something. That ain't happening. Oh god, no. How did I miss tap? Oh my god, that's so bad. Gross. For some reason I thought I was keeping Volcanic untapped. God, that's so disgusting. Okay, well, if our opponent can kill us, then by all means. So we wouldn't want to counter that one. If they cast Seething Song, snap counter that one. If they cast Burning Wish, snap counter that one. Yeah, like we would for sure Swan Song here. And then they passed in Flames. Diminishing Returns, sure. Wait, I got to... What? Oh, that's unfortunate. Jesus, what the... You get to choose? I suppose they did program that functionality correctly. It's just a little unfortunate. That I had to learn that diminishing returns is a choice. But yeah, wow. Okay, so punted by not keeping Swan Song up, and then punted again by not choosing to draw 7 cards with diminishing returns. Jesus. That is some Prison Rules client right there. Good God. Wow. Yeah, so Burning Wish for Tendrils. So gross. Okay, well, that would not have changed much, but the tap out punt was just disgusting. I'll be right back.